just today. And then once this debate is done and the rules are voted on, then the actual trial and arguments start tomorrow.
And that could go on, the part with opening statements, that could actually go on for 3 days?
So it's 24 hours, and they changed it. It was supposed to be 24 hours over 2 days. And that's, the Democrats were raising an issue with that, saying, well, we're going to have to make our arguments in the middle of the night if we're going to do 12 hours starting at 1 p.m. Eastern time all the way to 1, 2, 3 a.m. if there are breaks. So they changed it from 2 days to 3 days. That gives them time to do it during the day over the next few days.
So chances are it's not going to go that late into the night.
That's right.
Okay.
But still, it's 3 days, and then each side gets 24 hours to do that. And then after that, the senators themselves get 16 hours to ask questions of each side. Any questions they have after the arguments are laid out. So you're talking, 6 to 8 days probably before you get to the end of just the opening arguments.
Why are Republicans so eager to fast-track this process?
Well, because the Republicans feel that this process was not fair. They feel that the president is being railroaded politically by the Democrats, and they feel that the longer this goes on, that perhaps the sentiment among Americans will change. Right now, Americans are split on whether the president should be thrown out of office for what he's been accused of. And they feel that the longer this goes on, it becomes a political circus, and perhaps it doesn't look so good for the president. So they're trying to move this on pretty quickly.
Will the Democrats, we're looking at live pictures, by the way, with Adam Schiff, one of the 7 House managers who's going to be prosecuting this case. Will we hear or see any new evidence in this trial?
Well, that's a big sticking point here. So right now, the way the rules are likely to be set and voted on today is that no new evidence will be allowed and no new witnesses will be allowed to testify.
That's already been determined, is it?
Well, that's what we think, at least in the initial stages of this, that is what the Republicans want. What will likely happen is after the arguments are made and the senators' questions are taken and answered, then there'll be a vote to whether to allow new witnesses or new evidence. And right now, we don't know what the vote on that's going to be. There are a few Republican senators who have said, well, maybe I want to hear from some more witnesses, but we want to wait to hear the opening arguments, and then we'll decide whether we want to hear from new witnesses. The Democrats would like to bring in some witnesses like John Bolton, the former National Security Advisor, who they feel know a lot, but Republicans are saying, you bring in new witnesses like John Bolton, one, we're going to block that on executive privilege grounds, on national security grounds, and it gets tied up in court. And they'll say, you also want to bring John Bolton, we're going to ask Hunter Biden, the son of the former vice president, to come in and talk about his role in Ukraine and see what he has to say. We'll get him under oath.
With the vote on witnesses, allowing witnesses, how much of a game changer could these select few Republicans be who Democrats are hoping would break away from their party line?
It would be a game changer in the sense that there would be new evidence introduced to this. Whether this actually changes minds of Americans is a big, big question mark. Keep in mind, this has been going on for months. The House Democrats had an investigation that was quite public. They were making very clear arguments as to why they thought the president should be impeached. They passed their articles of impeachment in the House. And the Republicans, throughout all of that, didn't really have much of a cohesive argument to defend the president. Now you're going to have, in the next few days, you're going to have the Democrats laying out the same arguments they've laid out, but now you're going to finally hear from the Republicans and the president's lawyers an argument that has been deliberated behind closed doors, that is actual political strategy and a legal strategy that is going to make a little bit more sense, I think, to the American people. And then it's going to be up to the American people to decide, well, wait a minute, we didn't hear this before, now we hear it now. Is this going to be a game changer? It wasn't a game changer when the Democrats had the messaging advantage throughout the House investigative process. It'll be interesting to see, but highly doubtful that this will change much in the next
and it may not change anything for Donald Trump. At the end of all this, the chances of him being convicted and removed from office, minimal.
Almost impossible at this point. You need to have 67 votes in the Senate, which means you need about 20 Republicans to switch sides. We don't see that happening. And then what's the question about the election in November, whether this is going to have an effect on him? What we do know, American people do not love this president. They don't have him in high regard, and they haven't since he was elected and since before he was elected. I don't think this is going to be much of a game changer. I think there'll be other reasons why the president is voted out of office. If he loses or if he wins, it's the same. It's going to be other issues.
Steve Chaggris.